We are out here in the garden and we're looking at some calendula flowers growing in this pot here. I've been harvesting the flowers for a few weeks now, and I was thinking about it this morning and curious about what some of the medicinal benefits are of our calendula flowers here. And so I pulled out one of my books here, Health Through God's Pharmacy, Advice and Experiences with Medicinal Herbs by Maria Treben. And so I looked in here and found the listing on calendula, or marigold, also called pot marigold. And so I just wanted to read you what she had to say. Calendula. It has a noteworthy place among our native herbs. It belongs to the plants which are beneficial in cancer and cancer-like growths. It is found in many gardens in the country, sometimes growing wild on wastelands. Since its healing powers have become recognized again and are in demand, it is now met not only in gardens but also in fields. Calendula reaches a height of 30 to 40 centimeters. Its flower heads are bright yellow to orange. Stems and leaves are fleshy and sticky to the touch. There are several varieties with full flower heads with dark or light stamens. The medicinal value is the same. Should its flower heads be closed after 7 o'clock in the morning, it will rain the same day. It was considered a rain indicator in earlier times. In folk medicine, the plant's flowers, stems, and leaves are gathered and used. Gatherings should occur in bright sunshine when its healing powers are at their best. It can be picked fresh in the garden well into late autumn, if free from mildew. Calendula strongly resembles our arnica, but it is superior in its healing power. Arnica should only be used under medical supervision, since the tea could do more harm than good to people with heart trouble. On the other hand, calendula tea can be drunk without worry. As a blood cleanser, it is a great helper in, infectious hepatitis. 1 to 2 cups a day will work wonders. Calendula cleanses, stimulates circulation, and improves the healing of wounds. A man accidentally put his hand in a circular saw. He had great pain in the wounds. After release from the hospital, I heard about it and told him to use calendula ointment. He was enthusiastic about the results and told me that the pain, which had cost him many sleepless nights, had disappeared after a short time. His wife now plants calendula in the garden every year. On a visit, the lady of the house showed me her legs covered with varicose veins. I fetched calendula from her garden and prepared the ointment. The residue I put immediately on her legs. The residues can be used 4 to 5 times. She spread the ointment, the thickness of the back of a knife, on a piece of linen and bandaged her legs with it. You will be surprised when I tell you that 4 weeks later, when she visited me at home, the varicose veins had disappeared. Both legs had nice smooth skin. A nun told me that she saw a woman in the street with especially bad varicose veins and advised her to use calendula ointment. Great was her surprise when, after a month, the same woman joyfully showed her her legs, smooth and free of varicose veins. The ointment brings swift relief in phlebitis, varicose ulcers, fistulas, frostbites, and burns. Use the ointment and also the residue of the ointment preparations for ulcers of the breast, even if they are malignant. An acquaintance of mine had to have her breast removed. While she was in hospital, I prepared calendula ointment. Later, she used it on her huge wound from the operation, whereby the great tension of the wound was quickly eliminated. In a checkup, her scars from the operation, compared to the scars of other patients, showed such a beautiful heal that she needed only part of the prescribed ray treatment. The calendula ointment is also excellent for athlete's foot. Many letters I have received bear this out, especially in cases where all other remedies were of no avail. A decoction of the fresh herb can also be used with success. Should fungus infestation start around the area of the genitals, bathe the affected area or use sitz baths. Take 50 grams dried or 2 heaped double handfuls of fresh calendula per sitz bath. A woman from Stuttgart wrote that her husband had suffered from athlete's foot, and what had they not tried? Baths, ointments, powders? None showed results. Then he tried calendula ointment. After 8 days, the open parts had healed and stayed that way. Besides the ointment, a calendula tincture should be prepared. This tincture diluted with boiled water is especially suited as a compress for wounds, contusions, bruises, and sprains, even for festering or cancer-like sores, bed sores, ulcers, and swellings. Not only does the Abbey Knepp believe in calendula as a natural remedy for malignant growth, but also well-known physicians like Dr. Steger, Dr. Bond, Dr. Hallenser, and others. Dr. Bond names the calendula as the most important remedy in cancer illnesses if it is too late for an operation, and recommends the daily drinking of calendula tea for a prolonged period. The freshly pressed juice of calendula can be used successfully even in cancer of the skin. Strawberry marks, covered with the fresh juice several times a day for a prolonged period, can be made to disappear. The same goes for pigment spots and brown spots on elderly people, also rough, cancer-like skin patches. In recent times, the American physician and scientist Dr. Dway points out the unique healing quality of calendula in cancer. He was able to note good success with calendula. Internally, calendula as a tea is used for gastrointestinal disorders, stomach cramps, and stomach ulcers, as well as inflammation of the large intestine, dropsy, and blood in the urine. It is excellent for virus infections and bacteria in the urine. What wonderful results the use of the tea of fresh calendula has, it is noted in a letter to a physician sent to me. A small 2.5-year-old girl became very sick after repeated polio inoculations. She had chronic diarrhea, loss of weight, visual weakness, and difficulties with food. In a clinical checkup, paratyphoid fever was diagnosed, and the child was therefore under clinical supervision. 1 week after drinking tea made from fresh calendula flowers and some homeopathic medicines, the child was substantially better. The examination for typhoid bacillus, carried out 3 times shortly afterwards, was negative for the first time. Since calendula is also beneficial for infectious hepatitis, it is an excellent remedy in disorders of the liver. Flowers, leaves, and stems are brewed with boiling water. The tea should not be sweetened. For the above-mentioned disorders, drink 3 to 4 cups a day, about a tablespoon every quarter of an hour. A tea made from 1 tablespoon of flowers to a 1/4 liter of water will expel worms. The juice of the fresh stems gets rid of warts and scabies. The boiled infusion heals herpes and glandular swellings. If the affected parts are bathed in it, the tea drunk regularly purifies the blood. The eyes, bathed with an eye bath of the lukewarm tea, are strengthened. Cancer-like ulcers and growths, cracked feet, ulcerated legs, thigh ulcers, and also malignant, suppurating, non-healing wounds are helped by washing with an infusion of equal parts of calendula and horsetail. Use a heaped tablespoon of this blend to a 1/2 liter of water. To stress the unique effect of calendula tea, I would like to cite a few more successes. A nurse who suffered from inflammation of the large intestine for 8 years had an appointment with a specialist. She was advised to take the calendula tea as per my book. For 4 days she sipped 2 cups of calendula tea during the day. She could hardly believe it when after this short use of calendula all the complaints were gone. A nun told me she suffered from diarrhea. Although she drank chamomile tea, it did not get better. Only after she had used calendula tea was there an improvement. A nun in Bavaria suffered from athlete's foot for 15 years and also repeatedly from phlebitis. Through the application of calendula ointment, she experienced finally a healing of her feet. Scabs in the nose can be easily remedied with calendula ointment. Note, should there be an aversion to lard, good vegetable fat may be used. A bit of cooking oil is added to the still warm mass to make the ointment smoother. Here, at the bottom, after all that dissertation there on calendula, she gives some directions for an infusion: a heaped teaspoon of herbs to a 1/4 liter of water. A sitz bath is 2 heaped double handfuls of herbs for 1 sitz bath. And there's a direction there for washing, direction for tincture. Ointments, 2 heaped double handfuls of calendula, leaves, stems, flowers, finely chopped, and 500 grams of lard or heated, or your oil of choice. Let's see, where was I? And then the calendula is added, stirred, the pan removed from the stove, covered, and left to stand for a day. The next day it is warmed, filtered through a piece of linen, and poured into previously prepared clean jars. Anyway, and then there's a note there on juice, too. Leaves, stems, and flowers washed, still wet, and put into the juice extractor. So there is some interesting thoughts from the European herbalist Maria Treben on one of God's gifts to us in the calendula flower.